Good morning, friends, and welcome to today's lecture on doping control the way ahead. This is the start of week 7, the series of anti doping lectures brought to you by NPTEL in collaboration with IIT Chennai. I'm Professor Dobson Dominic, Head of Sports Medicine and Sports Science in Savitha Medical College, and also the President of Indian Society of Sports and Exercise Medicine. So, in this week 7 learning, we are broadly going to learn about the athlete biological passport and also the various arbitrations in anti doping. We are going to have a series of 5 lectures in week 7, starting with an introduction to doping control. What are the steps way ahead? We look into broadly on athlete biological passport. We look into how genetic doping, the newer technologies, can be controlled. We also will look into the court of arbitration in sports and arbitration in anti-doping. In today's lecture, broadly we are going to look into the several regulations and policies in anti-doping, the challenges faced, several emerging trends in doping, such as gene doping, microdosing, biological passport abuse, that is the athlete biological passport abuse. We look into the several methods adopted by WADA and national anti-doping organizations in preventing anti-doping rule violations. We look into prevention strategies in doping control, and we'll conclude with the future of doping control. Anti-doping regulations and policies. What are the testing procedures? The testing is done both out of competition and in competition. Out of competition, athletes can be tested to prevent doping practice even during the training regimen, not necessarily during competition. In competition, testing occurs during the event to catch any potential violations in real time. Several sanctioning protocols. The WADA code establishes sanctions for doping violations, which can include suspension, disqualification, and stripping of the medals won. The length and severity of sanction depends on the nature of the violation. So, say for example, if you are a first time offender, then the sanction is going to be of a less severity, and if you are found to be a repeated offender, then the sanction is going to be much more stringent. What are the types of testing done? The urine testing, the most common method, where athletes provides urine samples that are analyzed for prohibited substances. Blood testing used to detect substances that might be missed in urine testing, such as erythropoietin or blood transfusions. Biological passport, a program that monitors all athletes' biological markers over time, allowing for the detection of doping practices by identifying abnormal variations. So, what are the challenges in anti-doping? The several challenges are resource constraints. Many national anti-doping agencies, including NADA, National Anti-Doping Agency, face funding and personnel, that is the dope control officer shortages. So there might be a shortage in either the funding towards the testing, or there might be a shortage in terms of the dope control officers, limiting the scope and frequency of testing. Global disparity. There are inconsistencies in how different countries enforce anti doping regulations, leading to gaps in the system. That, what do you mean by that? There is no consistent enforcement of the anti doping regulations. Evolving doping practices. As detection methods improve, the athletes and the support staff like coaches, trainers also may develop newer methods to evade testing, such as using designer drugs like synthetic steroids or advanced masking techniques. Some of the common masking techniques like using a diuretic to mask the effect of anabolic steroid. These are all evolving doping practices used by athlete and the support team to avoid detection of banned substances or methods. So, several challenges like resource constraints, global disparity, there is inconsistencies in different places, and the newer evolving doping practices are all challenges to anti-doping. What are the emerging trends in doping? The new trends which are followed by several athletes are: 1. Gene doping, 2. Microdosing, and 3. Biological passport abuse. We'll look into this one by one. What is gene doping? Gene doping refers to the use of gene therapy techniques to enhance athletic performance. So, gene therapy, as we have already seen, has evolved from gene doping, has evolved from gene therapy, and this is a newer and latest form of doping practice, and this very difficult to detect. This involves modification or introduction of genes into an athlete's body to increase the production of specific proteins or hormones that may enhance the muscle growth, endurance, or improve the athlete's recovery. All are performance aids which help in the athlete's performance. So, what are the benefits and risks of gene doping? The potential benefits are obviously performance enhancement. The athlete can improve the performance. Some athletes think that there are potential benefits with injury prevention, but it is inconclusive. There are ethical concerns like fairness in competition. So, one athlete uh, does gene doping, and that may create an unfair competition. The access and inequality may result in a damage to the clean sport. And what are the health risks for the athlete who might do gene doping? Unintended genetic mutation could lead to serious health complications, which may include even the risk of cancer and severe immune disorders. What are the challenges faced during gene doping? The most important one in anti-doping regarding gene doping is detection. The current limitation is detection of methods for gene doping are still under development, making it difficult to identify athletes who are already using the advanced technique. Second one is biological passport monitoring. Although biological passports monitor changes in athletes' biological markers like urine and blood over a course of time, identifying specific gene modifications remains complex. Microdosing. What do you mean by microdosing? Microdosing refers to the practice of taking small subtherapeutic doses of performance enhancing drugs to improve athletic performance without triggering positive results in drug testing. The doses used are often lower than that would produce noticeable effects or be detectable in standard testing procedures. The purpose of microdosing is obviously the athlete's performance enhancement and avoidance of detection. So, the athletes don't take all the banned substances at a single go, they conceptualize and think that constantly taking the performance enhancing drugs or substances in small doses, which are less than the therapeutic dose, might be difficult to detect, but in the long course might help the athlete in performance enhancement. This is the concept of this new doping strategy, microdosing. What are the common substances used in microdosing? The main ones are the obvious performance enhancing substances The major group is anabolic steroids. Low doses of substances like testosterone or nandrolone can help maintain muscle mass without raising alarm. And stimulant substances such as amphetamines may be taken into small amounts to enhance focus and energy without the risk of adverse effects. Erythropoietin, small doses can stimulate red blood corpuscle production and enhance endurance without crossing detectable levels. So, these are the common substances used in microdosing strategy. And what are the detection challenges? The current limitations in traditional drug testing methods are designed to catch a large dose of substances. So, if the athlete is only taking a small or micro dose, it makes it very challenging to detect during drug testing. And what are the advancement in testing? Anti-doping agencies are working to develop more sensitive testing methods and also to employ the athlete biological program in a much more complex, comprehensive way, so that to identify irregular pattern in an athlete's biological markers, that is the urine and blood sample. Thereby, this will help in detecting microdosing also. Obviously, the athlete biological passport is the major tool for the anti-doping agency to monitor an athlete's biological markers over time. What does it do? It tracks variation in athletes' blood and urine samples to detect potential doping. It establishes a baseline for an athlete's biological parameters and flags significant deviations that may indicate probable doping practices. So, a athlete biological passport is a very important tool in the hands of World Anti-Doping Agency WADA and national doping organizations. Athletes even are starting to abuse the athlete biological passport. How do they do? They manipulate their biological markers to evade detection by using substance or techniques that may temporarily mask the presence of performance enhancing drugs or substances. This may include either by using frequent blood transfusions. Athletes might take advantage of the own stored blood or receive transfusions from others to thereby to artificially elevate red blood cell count. Substance cycling, using performance enhanced drugs in a strategic cycle, help to allow their biological markers to return to normal before testing. So, this is also a way of abusing the athlete's biological passport. So, the two strategies employed by athletes and support staff are either through blood transfusion or through substance cycling. So, what are the challenges in detection here? Limitation of current monitoring, effectiveness of athlete biological passport relies on consistent and accurate monitoring. A change in athletes' biological parameters can be subtle and may not always indicate doping. False positives can occur due to legitimate medical conditions, thereby leading to complications in sanctioning athletes. The challenges in doping control are evolving doping techniques, the constraints, resource constraints in terms of funding and in terms of personnel, global disparities in enforcement of stringent regulations, athlete education and awareness is still not up to the desired level. There are legal and ethical issues in doping control, and the doping control process has to be proper and ethical in the eyes of the public also, that thereby the public perception and is important, and sometimes pressure from media sources can also hamper the doping control process. So, the broad prevention strategies adopted in doping control are education and awareness programs, robust testing protocol, collaboration among various testing stakeholders, strict implementation of sanctions and consequences for athlete and athlete personnel, and newer research and development to enable tackling the new doping strategies like gene doping. The future of doping control lies in innovation in detection, like nanotechnology. Development of nanosensors can detect extremely low level of banned substance in the biological samples like urine and blood, thereby providing rapid and highly sensitive testing capabilities. So even if the biological samples of urine and blood has very small low level of the banned substances, nanotechnology will help in detecting that. The second detection technology is synthetic biology. What is synthetic biology? It is a technique that allows for the development of synthetic biomarkers that can be introduced into an athlete's system to enhance detection of doping practice. Enhanced data analytics and artificial intelligence. Real time monitoring through AI algorithm can analyze real time data from wearables to detect unusual physiological pattern that may indicate doping, thereby enabling immediate intervention. Risk assessment models. The machine learning model can be developed to assess an athlete's risk of doping based on historical data, lifestyle, and training pattern, allowing for targeted testing of susceptible athletes. To conclude, also the doping control strategies will involve personalized anti-doping strategies like customized testing regimen, implementing personalized testing schedules that takes into account athlete specific risk factors and performance data, and thereby to enable optimizing the detection efficiency. Also, individualizing the education program, targeted educational resources based on athletes' background, the sport, and previous violations all help in increasing the effectiveness of doping control. These are the references for today's lecture. Thank you and Jai Hind.